Today, Dani and the Wardens each make another attempt to try and stop the monstrosity that has taken over Bleakwood. But once again, their conflicting ideas on how to handle the situation put them at odds with each other. Can they find a resolution to this? And just how much more can Dani possibly lose by the time this is all over? This is The Last Wardens, number 4. Hello there, Comic Clan, and welcome to Comics the Frost, the greatest YouTubers you've never heard of. I, of course, am your host for today, Frost, and today we are checking out The Last Wardens, number 4 from Mad Cave Studios. Thank you so much for joining us for today, but before we delve into today's topic, please do us a favour, make sure to go down if you're enjoying the content, hit that like button as it really does help us out in the YouTube algorithm, and also make sure to hit that subscribe button so that you don't miss out on any of the amazing content coming up here on the channel, including if you are watching this and are a fan of the Last Wardens content, then you're definitely not going to want to miss that we have got Amit, Tishler and Elliot Sperl coming back on the channel for another interview with us at the end of November. They will be chatting with us about not just the Last Wardens comic book, but about the Last Wardens tabletop role-playing game, or TTRPG, along the lines of things like Dungeons & Dragons and Pathfinder, games like that for those that aren't aware of what that is, as well as a Last Wardens audio drama that is coming out. So there is tons of Last Wardens content coming out if you're enjoying the series. So make sure not to miss out what they've got to say about that, as well as we'll get to talk to them about their upcoming comic, Post-Mortal. So we are super excited for that. But if you need to get caught up in The Last Wardens, we have checked out issues 1 to 3 before today. Go ahead, click on the card up in the corner, get yourself all caught up. But if you're ready to go, let's dive on in. The Last Wardens number 4 is written by Elliot Sperl and Amit Tishler, with artwork from Rui Silveira. Colours are by Francesco Segala and lettering from Cvetkovic. Our issue begins exactly where the last issue left off, with Dani and Keith in the tunnels underneath the movie theatre, standing in front of a doorway. Unfortunately for them, the doorway is completely engulfed by the creature, as is pretty much most of the tunnel that they're standing in. Dani kneels at the door, placing her hand on it, and begs that if her brother Bruce can hear her, then please let her in. As she does this, Keith notices that the creature has tendrils all over the door, and now over Dani's hand, but it isn't trying to capture, hurt, or absorb her like it has done with everyone else. He believes that the creature may be responding to intent. As Dani doesn't want to cause it harm, it isn't reacting negatively to her. Dani isn't so sure. She thinks that Keith might be making a lot of assumptions about this creature that they just honestly don't know if they're true or not. Keith says that that's pretty much on point, but Dani spends so much of her time taking care of everyone else, and asks her to let him take care of her. He says that she doesn't have to do this alone. Dani is really worried about losing Keith, just like she's lost pretty much everyone else in her life all within this day. But she takes a deep breath and chooses to trust Keith. She gives him a big hug, and he steps forward to try and approach the door. Keith steps forward to the door. The tendrils begin to wrap around his hand, not too different from what they did for Dani. But as Keith attempts to open the door and make progress forward, one of the tendrils reels back and impales Keith right through his calf. Dani screams for Bruce to stop, and all the tendrils and teeth that were about to strike Dani and Keith stop dead in their tracks. Keith realises that it isn't about the person's intent. It's Dani. They're only stopping for Dani. Dani steps forward and tells Bruce that that is enough. She wants to see him. No more hiding. So we need to pull away from the door and let her in. To their astonishment, the tendrils of the creature retract and the doorway is completely cleared for Dani to enter. Dani tells Keith to stay back. She's got this covered. And she steps forward and walks through the door. As she enters and is still trying to connect with Bruce, Dani all of a sudden hears a voice telling her that she shouldn't have come. To her absolute horror, the person that she finds inside the doorway isn't her brother, but rather her alcoholic, abusive father, or at least a version of him trapped inside the creature. He says that he feels all of it, all of the shame, all of the fear, all of the pain, but he will fix it. He will protect us. He will make us whole again, whoever he happens to be. Dani tries to push through this unexpected one-on-one time with her dad and keeps looking for Bruce. Meanwhile, outside of the door, we see Keith grabbing a bit of wood and using it to help himself stand up and trying to attempt to use it as some sort of crutch so that he can try and walk and hopefully be of some sort of use to Dani. While he's doing this though, we see Worm of the Wardens making his way towards the door. In fact, we've seen him in the background making his way towards the door over the last few pages, but at this moment he takes his opportunity and charges past Keith and runs through the open doorway into the area where Dani is. Worm charges at what is left of Dani's brother and attacks him, all to Dani's dismay. But unfortunately, Worm's attack first and forget that you ever had questions to ask mentality backfires drastically on him, as the creature roars in pain and begins to lash out at Dani, tears off Worm's hand and begins to expand through the tunnels. As the creature expands and tries to lash out at them, they make a break for the exit in the hope of escaping. But the creature lashes out one more time, and it impales Keith with its tendrils, adding him to the Cronenbergian monstrosity that has absorbed the whole town. Before Dani has a chance to mourn Keith's death, Worm grabs her and starts looking for an exit. He quickly realises that the only way left to escape is to go straight up. Worm decides to irritate a pool of liquid that I can only assume is some sort of digestive juices or stomach acid from the way it behaves, because once Worm disturbs it, he and Dani are shot out through a manhole in the street above them in a massive wave of the green liquid. As they regroup back on the surface, Worm goes over to the creature and starts to eat some of its flesh. We then see him using this flesh to help regrow his hand back onto his arm. Once he's gone through this process though, Dani steps up to him and she starts to go off on him. She starts to berate him for being an asshole, that he really doesn't care and that their lives mean nothing to him as long as he gets his job done. Worm grabs her by the throat and lifts her into the air. As much as we have seen Worm yell and be loud and boisterous about everything going on, this time he's not like that. This time he tells her in a low and reserved voice to be quiet. He calls Dani an ungrateful bitch, that he took a hit to save her life and all she does is ignore every single warning that she has been given by the Wardens. The other Wardens are able to talk Worm down, and he decides to let Dani go. Worm then lets Riddle know exactly what's going on with Dani and the fact that now they have no way of getting to their target as everything to the underground is sealed off. Dani then has the audacity to tell Riddle that next time he should send his A-team, because the Wardens just aren't cutting it. But before she can even finish the sentence, Riddle tells her that there is no one else. He tells her that they are the last remnants of their order on this continent, and all that stand between her and oblivion. As Dani processes this information, Worm tells her that they are done saving her life, and that she is on her own from now on. And one way or another, that monster dies tonight. Dani again steps up and says that she won't let them hurt her brother, and she won't watch him die again. And the issue comes to a close with Worm squaring off with Dani and telling her that if she gets in the way one more time, then he is just going to kill her himself. We are now 4 issues deep into the Last Wardens. I do have to say with this issue, my first thing off the bat, I'm still loving the story of it. Issue 4 definitely felt more like a filler issue. It felt like a way to kind of set up whatever happened in issue 3 for whatever's to come next. Don't get me wrong, you still get filler issues sometimes. You get stuff that just have to get you from point A to point B. That's just one of those things that happens in stories. Sometimes you just need a way to get to the path. But in terms of it does excite me though, because it means that coming up next issue, we should hopefully be getting something big happening, or at least in the next couple of issues. This one was definitely, I think, more a case of getting Dani to a place where she had no one left, because we still had Keith around. And I felt like they had to take care of him. So that Dani really has nothing left, and it was a way to bring her fully into conflict with the Wardens. They already were in conflict. I know last issue they were hunting her and stuff like that. But literally they are about to come to blows. Worm has had enough. Worm has actually put his hands on her at this point. He has had enough. And in all honesty, I can kind of understand where the Wardens are coming from and why Worm is so pissed with her. Because Dani really has been told what to do. To stay out of the road, to keep this under, to help them take care of this, just stay out of the way and let them handle it. And the honest truth is, at this point, it's what's happening to Bleakwood is kind of Dani's fault. If she didn't keep interfering and didn't keep putting her nose in and didn't keep stopping the Wardens from doing their job, then they might actually have defeated the creature already and no one else would have died. But yet at this point, Dani is still arguing, and Dani is still fighting and still desperate to save her brother, and I commend her for wanting to try and save him. I commend her for not wanting him to die and not wanting to just abandon him. That's phenomenal family bonding. That is phenomenal faith in your brother making it. But at the same time, this thing is now eaten the whole town. And how many people are you willing to sacrifice just in the hopes that you might be able to get your brother back? Which I'd like to point out, 4 issues deep, she's still yet to confirm if she is actually able to save her brother. Well, now the whole town is gone. So I can understand the Warden's frustration. I get where Dani's coming from and wanting to save her brother, but at the same time, it's I am... Don't get me wrong, I don't think the frustration comes across as bad as it did last issue, but there's definitely still some frustration with her. Excuse me. As a character, there's still a bit of frustration. Even just the audacity for her to turn to Riddle and say, hey, you sent your Wardens, maybe you should have sent your A-team, and I'm as if she has any clue with what she's dealing with. They clearly, this is what they do. They have a woman with a ghost attached to her, a big rock monster, a creature with tentacles coming out of it, and their leader keeps changing shapes or possessing things. It's quite clear that they're used to the strange and bizarre and the things that are weird and monsters, and I would take them at their word just by looking at them. That, okay, they probably know how to deal with this better than I do, but yet Dani is still determined to argue and fight with them. Sorry, my throat is dry as. Give me a sec. That's better. So yeah, that's a little bit frustrating for Dani's character, because Dani is like issues 1 to the start of issue 3, she was such a likable character and enjoyable, and even at the start of this one, it's like she seems to be okay, but at the same time, I do think there is a possibility that it's a trauma response, because she keeps losing people, and they just seem to be determined to keep ripping her brother away from her. So I get where she's coming from a little bit, but not enough that I'm like, Dani, you're in the right here. Like, no, you need to stop. But I am excited for this series. I'm excited to see where it goes and what happens next. Like I said, there's not much more to say on it. The artwork from Rui Silveira and Francesco Segala's colouring is still phenomenal. It's still the same high bar even, I can speak, high bar as it has been in the past 3 issues. The artwork is phenomenal, lettering's phenomenal, the story is great. And the honest truth is, I think this issue won't be as noticeable when it's in a collected like trade along with the rest of the issues, and you can just go through it along with the rest of the story. I think it'll be a lot more straightforward to read. But I'm still enjoying it. This issue I don't think is one that's necessarily a high point for me, just because it does feel a bit more fillery, and like my brain is just kind of like, my ADHD kicks in and I'm like, I really don't want to be stuck with just a filler. I want to get to the good stuff, you know. But I think to get the full picture of what's going on, I would still recommend grab this, because I think there's some major stuff about to happen for it, and it's well worth it. So I think this is a definite one to grab from Mad Cave. I've been fully impressed with Amit and Elliot's storytelling and the artwork and everything for the Last Wardens. It's been one of my favourite pickups each month. So I highly recommend go and check it out, and check out a lot of their other work that they've got going on. Amit's Eden Frost has been one that he's posting on his socials a lot, and then also we'll be talking to them at the end of the month about their next upcoming title, Post Mortal, which I'm super excited to check out. So I'm sure you'll be seeing a review of that here on the channel at some point in the near future. But for the moment, that is everything from me. Thank you so much for hanging out with us. Make sure to go and check out our amazing affiliate link for BCW for all of your comic collecting needs. Our link is down below. You can use code ComicsCross to save 10% on all your purchases, and the link helps to kick back a little bit of money to Comics in the Cross while getting you what you need for your collection. So we greatly appreciate it. Also, you can support us if you wish over on Patreon for as little as $2 a month, where you get early access to all of our videos as well as some exclusive content over there. But I think that's everything from me. Thank you so much for joining me today, and remember, it is a good week to be a geek. Take care, and we will see you all next time. Peace.